Hello, everyone. Welcome to our March chat with our 2024 brand ambassadors. Today we have Vickeidy Plybon. Now tell me, am I saying that right? Tell me
No,
how to pronounce. I should have asked you that earlier.
I know. It's Vickeidy.
Vickeidy
Yes.
Plybon.
Plybon, yes.
Okay, Vickeidy. Thank you for clarifying that for me with me today. I'm thrilled to chat with her about her block and everything that she is up to these days, which is a lot. And talk a little bit about our love of quilting. So, okay, so Vickeidy, you live in New
New
York?
York City.
Yes, awesome.
Mhm.
How do you feel that influences your inspiration as a quilter?
I don't know. I don't get out in the city as much as people think we do.
Yeah.
We leave the touristy spaces to the tourists and just stay to our relative neighborhoods.
Mm-hmm.
But I do find a lot of inspiration in my neighborhood. I live in the Bronx near a lot of parks, so I like to take walks out there, take my daughter to play in the fields, and it's just nice. It fuels me and helps me clear my mind and find the inspiration I need.
Awesome. That's
Yeah.
great. I've been there a couple times and definitely the parks were like the biggest attraction for me, despite all of the other touristy stuff. But there is just so much inspiration in the architecture and the art available that,
Yes.
yeah, it can be a quilter's paradise, I think, when it comes to quilty modern inspiration, for sure.
Hmm.
Um, okay, so let's, I guess, first talk to me a little bit about your quilting journey and how you've arrived where you're at, and then we can talk a little bit about your block.
Yeah, so I had a pretty long journey to finding quilting. My mother is actually a fashion designer in the Dominican Republic. That's what she studied. And she
Wow.
had a business making clothing for people. So I grew up in that environment, helping her out. I would see how she would get like somebody would come and describe this idea that they had in their mind, and she would just get a pen, paper, and just draw it quickly, and it'd be exactly what the person saw in their mind. So I
That's
love
some talent
it
to do
is.
that.
It's
Yeah.
something I don't have. So I grew up seeing her doing that. And back in the Dominican Republic, we grew up, I don't know if you're familiar with the Caribbean, but sometimes electricity just goes out for hours in a day for no reason.
Mhm.
And she had a business to run. So she had a treadle machine that she used to use either at night or during the day whenever we didn't have electricity. And fast forward many years later, we moved to the United States. She's in a different field now. She does nursing. But I saw online a machine that looks like the treadle that she used to have. I saw it on Facebook Marketplace and I
Mhm.
bought it because it reminded me of that one. And I didn't know what I was doing, but I Googled it and I refurbished it. I rewired it with the help of my uncle. Um,
Awesome.
Yeah, I
That
got
is
it.
that is so exciting. I have one of my own that I haven't even started yet, but it was like part in the attic of an old historic house that I lived in, and I was able to um I was gifted it from the manager of that house when we rented it in there. And yeah, it's so beautiful, but I'm like, I don't even know where to start.
And they're reliable. They last forever, much better than the machines we have nowadays.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I presented it to her, and even though she's not sewing anymore, she's in nursing, she still has sewing machines in her apartment. She's like, "Oh, I have too many. I don't need this one." So she told me to keep it, and I did. And so what I did is I resold it for much higher value than I purchased it. And I caught that bug of buying old machines and refurbishing to sell until
Awesome.
I met the Featherweight 221, the Singer, the little
Yes.
one.
Hmm.
I was looking information about that one online and it said it was the perfect machine for quilters. And I did not know what a quilter was, so I Googled it. And here I am quilting ever since.
Wow, that's awesome. Do you still use your featherweight a lot?
Yes, I do.
I
Yeah.
love, yeah. I,
I
I
have I have one that's called the wrinkle finish, which is a different edition they had during World War II when some metals were being used to produce war materials. And so
Mhm.
this machine was made with a different finish and different
Cool.
parts. And it's really cool. So I have that one. I don't use it
That's
as
cool.
much because I want to preserve it.
Yeah.
But I do have it and I take it out every so often.
Awesome. I should look that up. That's so cool. My husband's grandmother gave me her sisters. Um, and it's just lovely to have that in our family and it's so reliable. Like it just works like a champ.
Yeah, and it makes this really, really nice noise. It's so pleasant to
Yes.
listen to it with going when you're stitching. It's just so sweet.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a reason why they're so popular with quilters. That's
Mhm.
great. What were some of the first things that you made?
I bought a on Missouri Quilt Co. They had a like a starter quilt thing kit, and I bought that and I made that for my goddaughter. But before that, I was making garments. So I made my
Mhm.
sweatshirt. I was making little blankets for little babies or bibs, little pieces of clothing like that. And then I did that Missouri Quilt Co. kit. And then I bought a Craftsy kit and I fell in love with it. And I was like, oh, I want to make so many of these. And yeah, so I started
Yeah.
with little baby quilts first and baby clothing.
After you kind of, you know, got your feet wet with those things, what did you find yourself gravitating towards? Like, what do you find yourself wanting to really make nowadays?
Things with very bright colors and modern design, so very geometric, very symmetrical. That's what I like the most. That's what I
Mhm.
gravitate towards too. That's what I design, and
Yeah,
really bright colors.
yeah.
That's my preference.
How was that journey from um consumer of kits and really diving into that to designer? Like, how did you find yourself go through that and um talk to us a little bit more about how you
Yeah.
gravitated to that?
So I wanted to make a quilt from a designer that looked like me or a person of color. And there were not that many at the time that I knew of in 2019. And
Mhm.
so that sparked something in me, like there's this space that is not being occupied or not being, we're not being seen as designers. So I wanted to put my 2 cents in and
Mhm.
I applied for Amber Elliott from Alderwood Studios. She has the
Mhm.
Pattern Writing Academy.
Great.
And I did a course with her. I published my first pattern after that. And yeah, it was just I wanting to fill in that gap where people that look like me were not designing or were not being seen as designers, and me wanting to put my face forward and put myself out there.
Awesome. And then since then, I mean, how many I'm sure you have, as many quilters are so prolific. How many have you worked through and published and that you have plans for?
Yeah, so I released my first pattern in 2022. And that's the windmill weave pattern.
Mhm.
And ever since I've done 8 that are published, and then I have 4 more in the works.
Always some in the works.
Yeah.
Awesome. Um, what are some things that if you had all the time in the world and no other obligations, would you like to either make or quilt or design from someone else? Because I feel like even if there's lots of ideas, there's still so many things out there to make.
Well, right now I'm busy making my designs for my patterns and my own samples, and I want to make
Mhm.
designs by other people, especially things that I'm not so good at that I want to be better at. So
Mhm.
I don't do any improv quilting at all, and I would like to do improv but with curves. And I
Mm,
think it's a very interesting thing that if I had all the time in the world, I would put myself in there and try
yeah.
that.
Are there any other techniques that seem interesting too that you want to try out?
I've dabbled in English paper piecing. I
Mhm.
just don't have the time to prep the pieces to get down
Yeah.
and sew it. So yeah, again, if I had all the time in the world, that's something I would want to do more of.
Mhm. Yeah, I
Mhm.
feel like prep of any nature always seems to be my downfall. It's like, let me go cut a while and then I'll be ready.
Right, but with English paper piecing, not just cutting it, but you also have to baste it, and you have to
Wrap it
put
around the.
the little whatever shape you're doing together, keep those.
Mhm.
I don't know. It's just 2 more
It's a
extra
lot.
steps that quilting doesn't have.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I totally get it. I remember my first Hexie project, and I was going to a week-long air show with my husband, big convention, and every day he would at 4 o'clock go sit on the flight line, and he'd pull out his binoculars and I would pull out my English paper piecing Hexies. But I think half the week was spent just folding them over and basting them, right? And then I finally got to the point where I had enough ready that I was able to start stitching. But yeah, I mean, that's a mini year project, but it's fine. Like, I take it on trips and kind of work my way through it.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's the journey's, it's about the journey, not necessarily what you arrive at.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. All right, well, let's talk a little bit about the quilts that we featured in the planner.
Mhm.
So fun. You sent me such great photos to include. So on page 173 is where we have Vickeidy's bio and some information. I particularly love the windmill weave. You said that was was that your very first one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's so simple, but it has such a lovely overall design. That's
Thank
so
you.
great. Yeah. And the Rosalia is such a great, like, contemporary. It feels like it could have, if made with like old World War II prints, it would have been, you know, such a fun vintage quilt, but then with all solids, it's like modern.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I can totally see that scrappy um in different colorways. That's
I
super
want to
fun.
make that one in a black and white gray gradient, the Rosalia one.
Yeah,
That's
that's on your to-do list. Yeah, that's
mm,
awesome. That's great. Um, okay, so
I think you're
talk to us a little.
okay, there you are.
Oh, did we freeze a little bit?
You froze a little bit, but you're back.
Okay. Tell me a little bit also about Mercado. Is that how you say it? Mercado?
Yes,
Okay.
Mercado.
Yeah. Tell
Mhm.
us a little bit about that
It's my
one.
grandmother's last name.
Okay.
Yes. I have it here. Just have to climb on a chair to get it. You want to
No,
see
it's
it?
okay. I'll pop a photo of it up on the screen
Okay,
in edit.
no problem. So I made that. My grandmother has this beautiful tile design in her garage in the Dominican Republic. And I saw that I was like, wow, that would make such a beautiful quilt. So I looked at the tile, I changed it a little bit and figure out how to make it. And it came out so good with the help of my tech editor. I couldn't have done it without her at all. And it's one of my most proudest work.
That's
Um,
awesome.
It's
Yeah.
named after my grandmother's last name.
Yeah. Great.
Mhm.
Yeah, I fell in love with it when I saw you post it on Instagram a couple weeks ago, and I was like, oh, I have to make that one. That one is going on my list for sure.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, let's talk a little bit about your inspiration for Issa Point. And I can't wait to hear the story behind the name. And I will hold up the block we have here.
Yeah,
So
so
this
my
is
dad,
March's block.
that is the March block. It's named Issa Point.
Mhm.
And I just named it Issa Point because I had no idea what else to name it.
Oh, great.
So there it is. My daughter's really into Star Wars right now, even though she's 3.5. She says for her 4th birthday party, she wants it to be a Darth Vader birthday party. Because that's what she's into at the moment. And we were reading a book, and I think it's called the Star Destroyer, a ship
Mhm.
in Star Wars that has a similar look to that one.
Yeah.
And I was like, it would be a really cool block.
Awesome.
Yes.
I love that you are inspired by Star Wars with that.
Yeah, it's such a
That's
good
so
design.
great. That means like even more now to me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love it. It came out so good.
My kids are so obsessed with Star Wars, Star Trek, all of it.
Yeah.
That's so great. And I'm gonna point my camera up a little bit. It looks so great in the mix with all of the other ones too. I really love that it has a little bit more white space around it, but it's so striking.
Thank you.
great. Yeah. And for, I mean, for the assembly of it, it's fairly straightforward. We're just
So
talking about HSTs.
that's it.
That's it. So easy peasy. You only have one to make and 3 colors. And I can't wait to see how people interpret the blocks in either their own color scheme or how this one inspires them. But yeah, what kind of tips do you have for us in making 2 at a time HSTs? Because I feel like we all make them, but inevitably I always seem to like sew on the cut line and then I have to go back and, and re-sew them.
Yeah, so my
Um,
biggest tip is to make sure you start your fabrics because you're gonna
mhm,
be cutting them on the bias. And you don't want the fabric to stretch or distort as you're working with them, and then you don't want them to come out wonky. So
right.
starching it, I starch my fabric like as paper, like very.
Do you starch with a spray starch when you iron, or do you starch in the wash?
I starch when I'm ironing, pressing my fabric or
Okay.
ironing my fabric before I start the cutting
Yeah.
process. And I have just this mist spray bottle,
Mm-hmm.
and I use Staflo. It's a very concentrated starch, and I do 1 to 2, so 1 starch to 2 water, 2 parts of
Yeah,
mix that in, and then spray that on my fabric, let it dry, and then I go back with just plain water mist to relax the fibers a little bit, and then that's how I make it nice and flat, but still very
I
starchy.
see. So you spray it, but then you don't let the iron dry it. You let it dry on its own.
Right, I let it dry in its
Mm.
own. If you dry with an iron, you're gonna get little flakes,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't want that on your fabric. So let
Yeah,
it dry first, and then you go back.
great. With a little mist of regular water. You can tell how many times I've actually starched things. Everyone watching will probably be like, yeah, Lindsay, this is how it actually works.
Yeah, I learned that from someone on, I think it was on Instagram. I was like, how do you get your points to match so well? And then she gave me the same ratio of water that she uses and the whole process, and it works
Mhm.
so well. So I highly recommend it.
Yeah, yeah, great. I'm going to do that the next time I do HSTs for sure.
The stiffer you want your fabric to be, the more starch you add.
More you
So
would spray
yeah.
on it, right?
Now, the
Yeah.
more on the bottom you do, so if you
Oh,
do like
the
half and
ratio.
half, yeah.
Okay. All right. That's great. Tell us some of your, do you use any specific tools when you're squaring up your HSTs?
Yes,
Or is typical? Yeah,
I
there's
have
rulers galore out there. So I would
I
love to hear your
know.
favorite.
And this one
Oh,
is
yes.
crazy. Can you see it?
Hmm.
Yeah,
This is the dog ear cutter, right?
yes, the Clearly Perfect slotted trimmers. They come in a pack of 2. And this is my favorite because you cut them before you press them open. So you're only cutting on
Mm.
2 sides rather than going around and cutting all around the HSD.
Oh, I see. And then when you open and press them, because you've starched them, they're going to automatically just end up the size you need them.
Right. If you trim them using this.
Genius.
Yeah. This
Genius.
is highly recommended. It speeds your process like half the time because you're only doing 2 cuts.
Yeah,
Yeah, it just makes it so much easier. I dropped
great.
this one and this piece fell off, and I just super glued it and it stayed in. So it stand the test of time.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'll put a link to that in the description for if anybody wants to pull that up. That's exciting. Awesome. Do you have any other tips for the block? How do you prefer to press seams,
I
especially for
am,
this design?
yeah, I'm a press open person, especially because you're gonna have a lot of seams meeting with the HSTs in the next block. Um, but that's just my preference. So
Yeah,
press open.
I mean, it is a personal preference. I will have to say my team member Shelly, who sewed up all the blocks and then I sewed them together up into the quilt top. I went over this with Brooke last month as well. Just it's interesting to see how things are made. Um, I'm typically a press to one side sometimes. But it looks like, so
Start
here, let
or
me
the
show you the back of the quilt. So Shelly alternated
Ooh,
direction
Mhm.
but then pressed towards the dark so that it wouldn't show through the white, but then did open when she sewed the rows together.
I
So
love.
I find that fascinating. And from the front, we still have really good points.
Yes, you do. Yeah.
Yeah. And no shadowing. So,
Well done,
you know,
Shelley.
but yeah, good job, Shelly. But honestly, I think there's no rules. Just do it how you want, right? Like
Right.
it's all gonna come out in the quilting, like it will, or be hidden in the quilting, right?
Uh-huh.
So,
That's
yeah. And certainly if you're doing a scrappy approach or a different colored background, like as long as you press, period. I don't,
right.
right?
Don't
Like
don't
still
iron. Press.
right. As long as you press and uh keep things tidy, everything will work out.
Mhm.
Um, okay. Well, I'm excited to see how people work on the block this month. Thank you again for designing it for us. Um, it's great to have. Um, do you have any thoughts? Just any musings about the the theme of our sampler this year, kind of finding your direction? Or did you have any thoughts of that when you were designing your block?
No, I didn't, but now I like it. Because I don't know, I'm in the process in my life where I'm trying to redefine my direction, and I really like the theme of this because it resonates with me a lot. Um, so yeah, I don't know, it has a special place in my heart this year.
Yeah, yeah. I think it allows us to, reevaluate every month. Like, how are we doing? Do we need to course correct a little bit?
Mhm.
Um, do we need to, make a hard right turn? Um,
Not
yeah,
having a clear direction is also fine.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Stay the course for
exactly.
sure. Awesome. Well, let's talk a little bit about your the planner and how you're using it. Show us the cover that you picked and which format you're using this year.
Oh, it matches my quilt con nails. Look at
Oh,
that.
yay. Oh, I didn't even notice your nails. That's so great. That's awesome. So I am going with the a longtime favorite, intersecting circles in aqua, but you picked the modern floral, which I'm so glad. I loved coming up with that design.
I think I like bold colors. I like bright colors, and I think this was perfect for me. I liked it a lot. Thank you for making it for me.
Oh, you're welcome. And it looks like you elected to go with the tab stickers, but you also are using the clear dividers for some things.
I'm not maybe are these the clear dividers?
Yeah, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, that are clear on the tabs, the
Got it. Okay.
laminated. Yeah,
Yeah, so I use those to mark where the patterns, the projects, and the reference sections of the planner are, so I can just find it much quicker.
hmm,
If it's a tab, I can just go to that one and just grab it real easy.
great, awesome. Um, t- let's just kind of flip through the planner. I would love to hear some of your thoughts on how you're using some of the different parts. Um, which calendar format did you choose?
Starting Sunday.
Starting Sunday, and then I can't
Uh,
remember, vertical, horizontal, dots,
Hold on, this is April. It's empty still for this one.
right? Well, on the weekly spreads, which one did
Oh,
you pick?
got it. This one.
Oh, the horizontal. That's great. Yeah.
Horizontal.
Yeah, I like filling in the blanks, so the vertical
Oh.
it works well for me, but
Yeah,
I've used the horizontal before too, and it has a lot of freedom. How are
like
you finding that works for you?
I have more space in the horizontal
Hmm.
to write details in it. So yeah, I like
Right.
it. All my planners have always been this way.
Oh, good, good.
Mhm.
Awesome. Um, tell me about do you have any favorite parts of the beginning section and some of the new pages that we added there?
So I'm not too familiar with what pages are new because
Oh, well, then just
I'm new
any
to
of
the
it.
planner this year. Yeah. I think I mentioned this before. I used to have a planner from 2019, but I had no idea what I was doing. So I don't know. I didn't
It's all good.
really. I do have the stickers around still somewhere.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm working on a new set of stickers, so hopefully someday we'll have some more stickers.
uh-huh. I'm sorry, would you say the question again?
Oh, no, just some of those beginning pages, are there any that you particularly have liked or use a lot?
Oh, I love this one, the year at a glance at the beginning of the planner,
Mhm.
because it's so much easier to find and I can just go and reference something real quick, having rather than having to go and flip through the whole
Yeah,
thing.
yeah,
Yeah, so I
great,
like that a lot. Yeah, it's my favorite.
awesome.
And I like there's a table of content. I've never seen a table of content in a planner before. I
Yeah,
like. Mhm.
great. Yeah, this is the first year we've added page numbers. So,
Ah,
yeah. Um, what about I'm anxious to hear how people enjoy um, the goal planning section or the my favorite thing section.
mhm. I like a lot the reference page. I have not used the quilting planner or the like the keeping track of the quilts
Oh,
section. Is that?
oh, I'm sorry. I'm still the very beginning on
Oh,
the,
sorry.
it's okay.
Can you tell what pregnancy brain these
It's all
days?
right.
I'm like, we're forgetting
And if you
much
haven't
where
yet,
we
that's
are.
fine either.
Go ahead. What
No,
did you
it's
say?
okay. I was just gonna say, do you find yourself jotting any notes down on, speaking of pregnancy brain, I feel like I've been in pregnancy brain for 5 years. Um, on the my favorite things page,
Yes, that's page
mine,
6.
I know mine is looking blank, but
Mine is blank too.
see, it's the beginning of the year, or it's still the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
We need to write down some stuff. I mean, in my mind, I have like tracked down, but I need to get it down on paper so then I seriously don't forget it forever.
I
Um,
also feel like I'm not in a stage where I'm planning ahead so far. So like places I want to visit. I don't know, the hospital where I'm gonna give birth.
back
That's
to
what
my
I'm
bedroom.
planning this year.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. No, okay, so let's talk a little bit about the project section. You said you haven't used that yet, but I am excited to see when you do use that,
Mhm.
how
Well, I
it
did
works
start
out for you.
it. Just
Oh,
haven't
you
been
did. Oh,
able to
great. Okay.
faithfully keep up with it. Because I am making more projects than I have time to go into it and write it. Or I'm just like, I just have to get this done. I don't have the time to write it down. It has to get done.
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
have used it, yeah, to keep track of some stuff I already finished for some friends.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Um, I'm realizing that I have a few more I need to add to my list, even if I never touch them this year. Like I need to record them so that I know that I actually still have them and they
I
just
want to
need to
be able
get
to
worked on.
have a I don't know what the word is in English, but just have the list of all the projects I worked throughout the year because I
Mhm.
know that I do a lot of things, but they're so fast in and out that I want to be able to look back and see a record
Mhm.
of everything that I
Yeah,
did in the year and be so proud of myself because I did all of that.
yes, yeah. And I mean, that certainly can be, used for that. And I included an extra set of pages of those because we've had so many requests over the years for more. Um, even
Mhm.
if you write it down after the fact and you just check check it all off, you would at least have record of it.
That's right. I have all my January projects. Now I have to
Oh,
go back and look for my February.
there you go. Write
March I
them all
haven't.
down. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, and then tell me what reference piece do you end up using the most?
The HRT section.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I talked a lot about this with Brooke last month.
Yeah, those are so fun to make, but also like I get confused whether like, am I sewing it this way? Am I sewing the line that way so that it can come up the way that I want it? I don't know.
Yeah,
Uh, so I
and
really
then
like having that there.
and helpful so that you don't end up with a lot of kites.
That- That's right.
What
Or miss,
happens to me?
I hate the miscuts so much. Like I don't. Oh,
Yeah, like what do you do with it?
exactly.
Yeah. So other than HRTs, what would you say is your favorite piecing method that you find yourself using a lot if you were to just sit down and, make something without a big intense pattern or an overall design? Do you have any favorites?
Yeah, HSTs. I used to dislike them with a fashion when I started, but now they're so versatile. You can make so many different designs with it that I find myself gravitating towards those so much.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like out of my 8 patterns that I've put out, maybe 5 or 4 of them have HSTs.
Yeah.
Because I like them so much.
I love them a lot too.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's just something to be said about not having to be like, remember some difficult pattern. You can just be like, I'm gonna sit down and make 200 HSTs. And I know
Yeah.
they'll come together somehow nicely on the design board, but you kind of don't have to think about it. What's your favorite method for, like, how many do you like to make at a time? Are you a 2 at a time or a 16 at a time?
No, I'm a 4 at a time
4 at a
person.
time.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I feel like that's
Cool.
the magical number for me.
And I have to look. Did we include a 4 at a time?
In the
Let's
reference?
see. Oh, we did. We have 8 at a time and 2 at a time, but not the. Well, add that to my list of things to add next year. Are more at a time HST options.
Have you seen the 32 at a time option?
No, is that
Yeah,
bonkers or what?
crazy. I've tried it and it makes it, so much faster to make them.
Uh-huh.
Um, it's so like mind blowing that you can make 32 of them at once. Whoa.
No, I've seen the 12 and the 16, but not the 32. That's crazy.
My friend Lynette from Lynn's Avenue has a tutorial on her blog about it. And
Cool.
it's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Check it.
Awesome. I'll have to look it out. Check it out. I will have to say, I also use the binding page every time I bind a quilt. I'm always
Yeah.
referring to there on, oh yeah, how much, what size am I cutting these at?
Yeah. Those are nice to have.
Yeah.
Do you do bias binding or do you do just regular straight?
I mostly do straight edge binding, because I always just sew it on a machine. Like the quilts I make are gonna get used and reused and washed a million times. But I have done a couple things where I've needed to do the bias for like a curved edge or like the hem of a skirt, and have, gone the trouble to get that ready, but mostly just the straight. No, I
Yeah.
will tell you, I I was it was not that long ago. Probably, so I grew up, I think I might have shared the story in a previous chat, but my grandmother was a quilter, and but never once did I see her bind a quilt. She always took the background and folded it to the front and sewed it.
Uh-huh.
Like that is just what she did. And I just thought that that's how you do it. Right. And so when I finished college and I kind of found quilting again, and I made kind of my first little lap quilts, I realized, oh wait, I need to like actually bind this for realsy. I can't just wrap the background up. Like I want this to like last forever, right? So I bought like store-bought binding, and I think I hand stitched it to the back, but then I started it at a corner instead of halfway along a side. And that poor quilt had a tail of binding not finished for, I don't even know, 5 years
Uh-huh.
until I took, an hour to like unpick it and figure out a way to finish this up by hand. But yeah. I just have to laugh at myself now. And then of course, like all of the quilts that I have that my grandma made me are totally lasting forever because she used polyester and tied them, and they're awesome and warm and thick and fluffy, but all of the edges are like threadbare because they weren't bound properly. So now I'm like, okay, I'm gonna just go rebind them and then they'll last another 30 years. So
That's right. I've never tried the other binding method where you flip it
Oh, are you talking about where it's on the back?
You call it facing, I think.
Yes, so a lot of art quilts are bound that way. I have bound a wall hanging that I made for a swap once that way, and it's super fun. You kind of have to get your math right, but yeah, you would sew it on to the front, but then you fold the whole thing to the back and then like tack it down.
Huh?
It makes a really nice finish.
Yeah, I
Really,
want
really
to try it
nice.
someday.
Yeah. And I think if it's one you're not going to use a lot, right? Like it's for display or whatever, it can be nice to just have your color bleed right off the edge, right? And not have that um
The frame
the
around it.
frame, which
Yeah.
some quilts need that, right?
Mhm.
Like that looks so great.
Thank you.
Um,
I
but
like a binding that pops from the colors around.
mhm,
Mhm.
yeah. Okay. Well, it's been so fun chatting with you. Is there anything that we didn't chat about that you wanted to mention, either about yourself or your quilting
Hmm.
style or
I think we covered everything pretty much.
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I think
Well,
one of the questions you had is how I fuel my quilting.
oh, yes, yes.
Yeah. On little sleep and lots of not as much caffeine anymore, but water.
Lots of water.
Yeah.
Yes. Uh, all right. Well, we'll have the full answers to the interview questions that I sent with you up on the blog when
Yeah.
we post the video, so people can read some more about you and a little bit more about where you sew and what you like to make, and I'll post some more pictures as well. But I just want to mention that that viewers can, let me flip back over to your page.
173.
I wanted to share with that, just remind everybody that you gave us a wonderful coupon code. All of your digital patterns are 20% off with the coupon code from the planner. Just super generous. Thank you. So I recommend that everybody take advantage of that and go grab one of her beautiful patterns to try out. So,
Yeah, go shopping. Oh, and watch
and
out for my post on my blog is gonna come out on the
oh,
15th.
that's right.
Yeah, I wanted to do a middle of the month check-in rather than beginning of the month.
I love that.
It's like an accountability situation.
Yeah.
So watch out for the post is gonna come out this Friday, the 15th.
Okay. Great.
Mhm.
And Suspicious on Instagram
That's
and
right.
suspicious.com is where people can follow you too.
That's right.
So, okay. Well, I wish you good luck with everything. And you only have what, 2 more months now? 6 weeks?
Yeah, no, exactly 2 months.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I hope it goes well and you get in some good nesting modes and feel like you're being productive.
Thank you so much.
It was great to chat with you today. Thank
Likewise.
you. Bye,
Bye.
everyone.